Welkom bij dit webinar allemaal vandaag. Willem, next slide. Vandaag zullen Willem en ik dit webinar voor jullie verzorgen. Willem is Willem Bouwer van Transoft, zoals jullie zien. Willem, zijn naam klinkt heel Nederlands, maar dat is het niet. Willem komt uit Zuid-Afrika, zit momenteel ook lekker in Zuid-Afrika, geniet nog een beetje van de nazomer, Willem. En Willem zal vandaag de demo verzorgen. De demo zal, omdat Willem ook uit Zuid-Afrika komt, maar niet Nederlandstalig is, zal, zoals ook in de uitnodiging gezet, de Engelstalige zijn demo Engelstalig verzorgen. Hij is ook de beheerder trouwens van deze presentatie, dus af en toe zullen jullie mij horen dat we naar de volgende slide gaan. Maar nogmaals, welkom allemaal. Willem, next slide. En tijdens dit webinar, bij de uitnodiging stond het al, zullen we meerdere onderwerpen daarbij behandelen. Ik zal mijn deel, als Dirk van Loenen, ik ben ook Transoft manager onder andere en ook actief in de GWW-sector. Maar ik zal mijn presentatie Nederlandstalig verzorgen. Een korte introductie daarvan, zoals hier ook staat, zoals ook al bij de uitnodiging. En daarna gaan we dus naar de demonstratie die Willem zal verzorgen. Waar ik jullie graag op wil attenderen, er zit in jullie scherm aan de rechterzijde een veld voor de Q&A. Mochten jullie vragen hebben tijdens het webinar, dan kunnen jullie die vragen vermelden in de Q&A. En aan het einde van het webinar zullen Willem en ik die vragen daarin beoordelen en bekijken. En als we nog tijd over hebben, daarin beantwoorden. Daarnaast zitten nog wat collega's van mij op de achtergrond die ook die vragen in de gaten houden, waaronder Mart. En mocht er tussentijds al vragen kunnen worden beantwoord, dan zal hij dat daarbij doen. Willem, next slide. Ja, ten eerste de meerwaarde van AutoTURN. En het staat er al een beetje, it's all about the quality. Want het is niet voor niets de meest gebruikte applicatie in de markt als rijcurve applicatie. En zeker als je kijkt in Nederland. En zeker, want vandaag zijn we met velen die zich hebben geregistreerd voor het webinar, dat er gewoon heel veel gebruikers zijn die gebruik maken van een van de verschillende versies van AutoTURN die daarvoor beschikbaar is. En de reden daarvoor is dat die applicatie namelijk voor jullie en door specialisten is ontwikkeld. En met feedback van jullie. En ik zeg ook door de specialisten, en dat zijn de specialisten van Transoft, de producent van de software. Willem is er daar één van, die dat als specialist en zometeen gaat demonstreren. Maar dat vertaalt zich helemaal terug in de techniek. En ook verzorgen zij allerlei praktijktesten, waardoor de oplossing aansluit, en dat zien jullie op de afbeeldingen daarnaast, aansluit, uiteindelijk wordt getoetst of het overeenkomstig is met de techniek, zodat het op die manier ook weer toepasbaar is. En er wordt samengewerkt. Samengewerkt onder andere met CROW, samengewerkt met het Stichting Wetenschappelijk Onderzoek van Verkeersveiligheid, de SWOV, die trouwens onlangs een heel fraai artikel hebben gepubliceerd. Ik weet niet of jullie dat voorbij hebben zien komen, over het belang van het zichtveld en de gevolgen daarvan. Zij zijn dan een stichting die zich daarmee bezighouden. Onlangs een LinkedIn-bericht, maar ook een website, een publicatieartikel. Misschien de moeite om te lezen. En ook samenwerking weer met marktpartijen zoals Haskoning, waarvan trouwens vandaag, welkom voor jullie ook allemaal, redelijk wat personeelsleden aanwezig zijn, specialisten aanwezig zijn van Haskoning. Maar ook die feedback, die interactie, resulteert weer in de oplossing die er is. En dan sluit het ook weer aan, zeker op de Nederlandse richtlijn. Willem, next slide. En ook een voorbeeld daarvan, van de specialisten, maar ook kwaliteit, die wil ik wel heel kort even onder de aandacht brengen. Ik heb onlangs samen met een collega ook een interview gehad, een gesprek gehad, samen met Roel en met Bjarne, die hier op de foto te zien is, van de firma Exante. En ook zij werken, ze zijn dan een verkeerskundig advies- en ontwerpbureau, en zij ook werken met deze techniek. Maar zij leggen juist uit vanuit hun perspectief waar zij voor staan. Zij zijn met de passie die ze hebben, een vakspecialisme, die ze daarbij gebruiken. Dat wil niet zeggen dat je de technieken altijd in dergelijke specialisaties, het wordt ook heel algemeen gebruikt. Belangrijk om je rijcurves te simuleren daarbij. Het artikel is te zien op onze website. En daarnaast zullen jullie morgen, geloof ik, een nieuwsbrief van ons ontvangen. En ook daarin zit een verwijzing naar dit artikel, mocht u dat in alle rust even willen doorlezen. Willem, next slide. En zoals gezegd, AutoTURN is in verschillende versies verkrijgbaar. Even van linksboven is de meest uitgebreide versie, AutoTURN Pro. Dan heb je AutoTURN, velen van jullie ook die hebben, en Pro trouwens ook. Maar je hebt ook een specifieke versie AutoTURN Online voor Revit gebruikers. En dan heb je AutoTURN Online, algemeen. Mocht je nou helemaal geen CAD-applicatie hebben, ook daarvoor zijn er toepassingen mogelijk. Maar het is wel bovenin degene met de meeste functionaliteiten, onderin met de beperkte functionaliteit. Op onze website staat meer informatie. Willem, next slide. En ook zijn er verschillende licentievormen. Gebruik je de software en wil je de software continu gebruiken of met grote regelmaat, dan is eigenlijk het advies altijd om een named user licentie te hebben. En dan is die voor je daarop aangesloten. Dit is het licentiemodel wat sinds eind 2023 en sinds 2024 is ingevoerd. Maar je hebt dan het User Subscription License, de USL, voor de named users. En mocht je incidenteel rijcurve met een groep, met meerdere medewerkers, daarbij willen gebruiken, dan is er een Team Subscription License, een TSL-versie. Dus op zo'n manier past dat binnen verschillende manieren hoe er gewerkt wordt binnen de organisatie, binnen jullie organisatie. Het werkt altijd met een basislicentie, dat is de eerste licentie. Daarna zijn er voordelig additionele licenties beschikbaar. Dus dat wil ook zeggen, mocht je op den duur gebruik toenemen, dan kan je heel makkelijk een additionele licentie toevoegen aan je contract. Ook daarvoor gewoon contact met ons opnemen en dan zullen we toegespitst op jullie situatie informatie verstrekken wat dat inhoudt. Willem, next slide. En dan stappen we over naar Zuid-Afrika en dan geef ik graag het woord aan Willem.
Dirk, thank you very much for all that information and welcome to everyone joining this webinar hosted by us. And in my native language, Afrikaans, welkom aan almal. Thank you very much. I'm looking forward to this presentation and as we said, AutoTURN comes in various versies or versions. So I'm going to go over to that quickly in a quick introduction. AutoTURN comes in basically 3 flavors. The AutoTURN that most of you are well aware of, AutoTURN Pro, and AutoTURN Online. Now, some key features that I would like to just show to you today is that AutoTURN Pro comes in the standard AutoTURN 3D simulations, 2D simulations like you would get in AutoTURN, but AutoTURN Pro also adds the 3D like you would see in these pictures. Then also AutoTURN comes in our normal national guideline vehicles like you all are used to, but then also we have manufacturer-based vehicles. And these manufacturer-based vehicles are in more detail where you have vehicles from, let's say, Scania, Mercedes. So the manufacturers gives us their details and we enter those details in AutoTURN. And then we also have sightline analysis like you see on that picture on the right. We also have bicycle simulation, so you can test your bicycle schemes. And then another function called IntelliPath, where we automate swept path analysis, where you specifically do a development and you want to change, for instance, the geometry and the layout of the roads, and AutoTURN will automatically update the simulations for you. And I will go into a little bit more detail in the next couple of slides and in the presentation. Just to show you, AutoTURN Pro adds the 3D, so you can have a 3D box model And I'll show you that, or outline model, but you can also have the 3D realistic vehicles where you can really see, like the image on top, the ground clearance conflicts. If you go, let's say, over a speed hump or any other obstruction in the road, or you go under an underpass or through a bridge, and you can do that obstacle analysis in 3D. And then obviously the manufacturer-based vehicles that are in great detail, like you can see on the right. In AutoTURN Pro version specifically, we've introduced the bicycle libraries. And I'll show you today specifically the buck fits, which is our cargo type of bicycles. We have scooters, bromfietsers, and various different types of, I think there's about 13 types of bicycles in this library. And for many countries, for Netherlands, Norway, Sweden, and many others. Now, the benefit of using the MVL manufacturer-based libraries are that in those cases where you want to simulate vehicle sweep paths for non-standard vehicles, this is the library that you should have. Because here you can look at a specific Mercedes-Benz vehicle, a specific Iveco fire ladder, or a specific vehicle, a Rolls-Royce, for instance, or a Lamborghini, if that is what you need to analyze for your specific facility that you want to analyze the sweep path analysis for. Sometimes you need to analyze the exception or a specific long eco-combi vehicle, truck, for instance. And this is contained in the manufacturer vehicle libraries where you get vehicles for agriculture, construction, emergency, where you've got medical and fire and rescue, mining operations, various passenger and luxury passenger cars, refuse collection, many of them, and then transit buses. And today, EV vehicles are getting so much attention. There's a set of EV vehicles in there as well. And then the logistics, where you've got forklifts, telehandlers, and the like. In this demo, I want to show you cyclist conflict. And we're going to look at blind spot analysis. So what you see on the left is a bus, not in great detail, but you can have a detailed vehicle. I've chosen to use a standard vehicle here. The issue is that at this specific intersection that we analyzed, even with traffic cameras, we saw that the bicycles were going too fast through the intersection. One of the issues was that it was a straight line for the bicycles. There were no turning. There were no things enabled to slow down the bicycles. The buses were also, and passenger cars for that matter, was too close to the bicycles denoted by that red arrow. So the reaction time was too slow. So where you see orange, that's blind spots. And where you see open areas, that's where the driver can actually see. So the problem is when the bicycle just wants to go into the intersection, it's in the blind spot. As it gets in, the distance between the bicycle and in this case, the buck fits and the bus is not great enough, not enough sight distance, not enough stopping sight distance, and therefore a huge potential conflict. So after improvements, and I'll go through this with you, we've added some corner islands, we've added a setback intersection, and you'll see when the vehicle, the bus, is going to turn, the bicycle is in the blind spot, but the bicycle cannot get into the intersection because of the corner path. And when it is visible, there's enough distance for the driver of the bus to react. So without further ado, let's quickly dive into AutoTURN. Just AutoTURN comes in various versions again, and the bicycles are part of AutoTURN Pro. The blind spot analysis is part of the standard AutoTURN that you have currently. So just going into Autodesk, AutoCAD here, It also runs on BricsCAD. So I'm going to do before improvements, after improvements, and the blind spot analysis, that's really a load that I place on the vehicle. I'm just going to show you the before screen here. And we've got a buck fits and a lager vloer bus or a low floor bus. Going to reset my filters. I'm just going to quickly run you through this list quickly. I filtered it basically for Netherlands. You see the Crow guidelines. Then you see the manufacturer vehicles donated by this vehicle with a plus. And again, here's some more. And I'll just click on a couple of vehicles so to get an idea of what's available in the library. But there are thousands, really. And you can create custom vehicles by copying a vehicle and changing parameters. So I'm going to specifically, well, you can filter by country if you wanted to. I'm going to add a class, and I'm going to filter by bicycle in this case. And you can see many different types of bicycles here. And I'm going to look for not bark, but buck fits. So here I'm going to select this buck fits. You can see the length, total length of 1.7 meters. I'm going to do a standard AutoTURN functionality with this. Firstly, let's go to vehicles, and I'm going to look at the properties. It's filled. I'm showing realistic if it is available. Loads will be here in orange. And remember, the loads in this case will be my blind spot analysis. And envelopes, I want to see front tires, rear tires, vehicle body in blue. So I'm going to do a standard 2D arc path, which is part of AutoTURN Pro and in AutoTURN Standard, but the bicycle, again, that's AutoTURN Pro. So I'm going to align it. And again, as we said, the speeds are high with these bicycles. So they're coming at very high speeds. And we've noticed when they come into the intersection, they do reduce speed. And you'll see this later on as well. But the speed only reduces slightly. But when they hit that intersection again and they feel comfortable, they start accelerating. And as they go further on, they increase the speed. So in AutoTURN, it's very easy to simulate speed changes. So you see the simulation here, very quick and easy to do. Let me now go and select the bus. So I'm going to select bus. I'm going to clear my filter, take off that class filter. You can see many vehicles here, many countries, bi-articulated buses even. And again, manufacturer wants. But I'm going to go with the standard lager vloer bus here in the Crow library. And you can see my blind spot analysis is already on there. It's a load. So you trace the blind spots of a typical bus like I've done here with a polyline, and I add it as a load with my reference point in front. It adds it here. I'm just going to delete the one that I had in there. And then very quickly, I'm going to do a 2D arc path. Now remember, blind spots are in orange. So I'm aligning it very quickly to a line here. It's nicely aligned. I'll start my simulation. Now, the speed of the buses were not the highest, the major concern. Slightly, but the bicycle speed was the major one. But even with the buses, we can improve that by changing the geometry of this intersection slightly as well. But now to go into this lane, I'm going to use corner path function in AutoTURN, where you align it again to a line. It's going to complete the simulation. And at this intersection where these lines cross, this is where I really want to look at what is the impact. So I'm going to place a vehicle here, standard AutoTURN functionality. Bicycles, AutoTURN Pro, but I'm going to add it just before it enters the intersection, and then as it is in the intersection, just to show you what I did with when I captured that image initially. And here again, at the blind spot here, you can see the driver cannot see the bicycle as it just wants to enter the intersection. And as it enters, that distance is just not great enough. So that is the problem that we're sitting with here. I'm going to do a speed analysis. It's called inspect simulation. Going to get my ranges correct here because it creates a heat map where green is the desirable speed. Now, the bus, the speed is okay here, but the bicycle, it's just too great. And it's because this bicycle can just travel straight very quickly. And again, where that speed is great, it's in the blind spot. Let's go to the intersection where we've improved the layout with the corner islands, like I'm showing you here in yellow. A setback intersection. The distance is greater from where that crossing was initially. I'm going to place the bicycle again. And you can see I'm going to place it in that blind spot there by the corner island, but I'm also in the intersection. And I'm going to do the same with the bus. But now you can see when it is in the blind spot, the corner island is there, preventing the bicycle from crossing directly into this intersection. So that's fine. So where it is actually just about to cross, the driver can see it, but that distance is now greater. There's more time for the driver to react. And because we're doing this, creating the turns for the bicycle, when we do the inspect simulation, you'll see that the bicycle speed is now reduced. And this is what we want. So the bicycle speed is reduced. Because we've changed the geometry also slightly for the bus, the speed of the bus turning is also slightly reduced here. But again, the issue is that we've solved the blind spot. We've increased the distance. You can see clearly the before and the after improvements. That was a quick demo. Just to show you again, before improvements, we had high speed there. Distance was not great. After improvements, we've got the corner islands that we've added. So in essence, AutoTURN here can do before and after studies very quickly. And you can redo the simulation. And we've done this with bicycles, which is part of AutoTURN Pro. And the rest of and inspect simulation, that's part of AutoTURN Pro. But all of the rest is the standard AutoTURN that you know. We've got a setback crossing here for the bicycle. There's slower speeds, tighter radius, and the setback crossing, and there's greater visibility. Overall, a much improved intersection. As I mentioned, we did before camera analytics with a product that Transoft sells by the name of Veralytics Pulse. And with the dots that you see, they are the incidents where there's misses or near misses. And you can see quite a number as the bicycle was going straight. But also here in the initial intersection, we had this left turn here, basically in the middle of the intersection, and we had a left turn here and crossing the intersection. And in the new layout, that's improved, where you don't have that. And you can see the incidences as decreased significantly. And you don't get the bicycles going through here, but rather through the setback intersection. Greatly improved intersection, and we've proved this by using Veralytics for the video analysis, AutoTURN for the blind spot, and AutoTURN Pro for the bicycle analysis and the inspect simulation. Just another one quickly showing AutoTURN 3D analytics. And this is full 3D analytics. I must just stress that in AutoTURN Pro, it's 3D proper ground clearance, obstacle analysis, and it's not just animation. This is pure 3D analytics, and we can do the animations as well. So let's go to AutoTURN. I've got two roundabouts here going underneath a bridge. And I've added a height restriction line here that's going to show me the height restriction, but if it's an object, AutoTURN will also pick up that object. And I'm going to just change this to the wireframe. I'm going to look for a vehicle. And in this case, we're going to start with that fire truck that I mentioned earlier. And it is a manufacturer-based one. So you'll see that vehicle symbol on the left. And I'm just going through this menu. So, there we go. I'm going to zoom into it. You'll see it's got quite some detail. And it's got a roofline outline. Now, remember that outline because you'll see it further. And that also gives us proper ground clearances because we've outlined the vehicle. Sometimes we just use the box 3D, but sometimes we do the outline and we get more details. So let's do a 2D arc path just in 2D for now. I could have started this automatically in 3D. You see the obstacle there? As I move over it, it already detects that as an obstacle. That was a signboard. And that's in 2D. And I'm just going to quickly do the simulation. I could have varied my speed, but I'm just going to do this quickly. As I go through, in 2D, it's showing me possible conflicts. Now, we need to go and test that in 3D, and this is where AutoTURN Pro comes to its right. I've done a normal AutoTURN 2D simulation, but now I'm going to convert this to 3D. I'm going to convert the 2D to 3D. And I select my simulation, and I've already selected my terrain. It's going to convert it. And this one is fairly simple because this fire truck is not that high at the moment because it's not lifted the ladder. If I wanted to lift the ladder, I could have added a load to it. I could have put that load at an angle, and I could have simulated that as well. And do you see that outline view when I place another vehicle? So when you only have the outline view and you don't have a detailed model like we have in 3D here, it'll place the outline view there. But this vehicle has got a detailed, realistic view. So it replaces the analytical outline with the 3D model that we have. And I'm just going to do an animation with it. The current view. It's going to please play on this one. And you can see it quickly. So this is just the animation of it. But the conflict analysis, all of this was in 3D, AutoTURN Pro again. And I'm just going to change this. Let me just stop this because I want to hide the simulation. So there's various ways of doing presentation. With an envelope, without an envelope, with the vehicle, without the vehicle. And these simulations, you can save then and give to your client. Now, obviously, the simulations can be done in 2D and AutoTURN. You can also do the animation there, but you can do it in 3D. I want to show a vehicle that's an abnormal load vehicle. You can see again, manufacturer-based vehicle. And I've already added a load to it. Now, that shape has got a height of 4.5 meters, and it's 1.4 meters from the ground. So when I then do a simulation, and you can see that orange there, I'm just going to do this very quickly through this intersection, through this roundabout. Oh, and I've gone a little bit too far, but AutoTURN is easy. I just click on undo, and I can go on with my simulation. I can place this, and you can clearly see as I go underneath there might be obstructions. So I went through with the horse, and that's probably not the obstruction. It's probably the load because it's 4.5 meters high. So again, I could have done this in 3D automatically, but because I want to show you AutoTURN and Pro together, I'm doing it in 2D. I'm converting it to 3D. You can keep the 2D simulation, and I'm doing that, or you can delete it. Let me make this more realistic. I'm going to tilt and pan a little bit here, and you can immediately see the red there. So you can clearly see the height obstacle this vehicle could pass through, but the load box in 3D was defined in blue. In 2D, it was defined in orange. And where there is a conflict, automatically it highlights it in red. And you will see the same with ground clearances. If I'd gone over a speed hump, a raised pedestrian crossing, or any other obstacle in the road, and there was a ground clearance issue, it would immediately show that up in red as well. So thank you very much. That was a quick introduction to the difference between an AutoTURN Pro. It is still the leaders in swept path analysis, and it's detailed 3D analysis in AutoTURN. The additional capabilities, just to remind you of what we've added here, some of them I've demoed, and some of them, if you need more information, please reach out to us. We've added the manufacturer-based vehicle libraries, which gives us more detail. It gives us longer vehicles, and so you can use those. We also added the cycling analysis for various bicycles, the cargo bicycles, normal bicycles, bicycles with child carriers, and so on. And we've added the 3D analysis that is not just animation. This is proper 3D analysis with ground clearance analysis and top clearance as well, of obstacles of any sort, whether it's a boom that's lifted at a facility, a height restriction boom, or it is perhaps trees that's in the way that you've got objects for. Yes, it can do that. Ground clearances, obstacle analysis, sightlines, and IntelliPath. If you want to know more about IntelliPath, please reach out to us. I thank you very much. Thank you for staying with us for this demonstrations. It was exciting. I quite enjoyed it, and I hope to speak to you soon.
Yeah, well, you still speak to them, Willem, because we're going also to the questions, of course, at the end. Dank jullie nogmaals. Dankjewel Willem trouwens voor de demonstratie. Onderwijl hebben we ook al gezien, zijn er enkele vragen gesteld in de chat, waarvan ik er 2 heb beantwoord, maar de andere zullen we zo meteen even samen met Willem ook beantwoorden. Waar ik ook op wil attenderen is dat we aan het einde, dus op het moment dat het webinar wordt afgesloten, dan ontvangen jullie automatisch een enquête en heel graag jullie feedback, want we zijn ten eerste benieuwd naar jullie oordeel. Maar daarnaast, mochten we vervolgwebinars organiseren, zouden we ook graag jullie feedback willen van welke onderwerpen. Jullie kunnen dat aanvinken of daarin toevoegen. Dus, Willem, next slide. Ook even kort wil ik nog wat zeggen over trainingen met regelmaat. Hebben we trouwens sowieso heel vaak klassikale trainingen verzorgd. Maar wij zien in de loop der jaren dat gewoon de behoefte daar veel is van afgenomen. Mede omdat het gewoon een heel innovatieve oplossing is. Goed toepasbaar, goed bruikbaar. Op grote schaal wordt gebruikt. En daarom hebben we samen met Transoft een andere trainingsvorm bieden we daarbij aan. Tegenwoordig ook is het on-demand training. De URL zien jullie onderin. Die kan je heel makkelijk ook bestellen, zeg maar, daarbij. Maar dat is een e-learning training. Zowel voor, mocht je, zeg maar, gewoon je bestaande kennis wat willen opfrissen. Of als je helemaal nieuwe gebruiker bent. Zeer prettig, zeer goed. Met allerlei lessen en video's en quizzen die je daarbij krijgt. En een abonnement voor een jaar. Voor een heel aantrekkelijk tarief. 24/7, oftewel dagelijks ieder moment voor jullie te benaderen. Mocht dat wenselijk zijn. Willem, next slide. En ook, zoals Willem ook heeft gedemonstreerd, bepaalde functionaliteiten van AutoTURN, bepaalde functionaliteiten van AutoTURN Pro, van wat daarin de extra mogelijkheden daarbij zijn. AutoTURN Pro viel redelijk vaak ook als naam, als mogelijkheden. zien we ook wel specifiek voor de Nederlandse markt. Zeker als groot fietsland, dat daarbij is. Nou, die analyse van het fietsen zit echt in de pro-versie. Mochten jullie momenteel beschikken over AutoTURN en de interesse hebben in AutoTURN Pro, laat het ons weten. Transoft biedt een tijdelijke promo op dit moment met een aanzienlijke korting. Aan het einde bij het webinar, mocht die interesse er zijn, kan je dat aangeven of jullie kunnen contact opnemen met onze Inside Sales afdeling. Willem, next slide. En zoals gezegd, aan het einde hiervan een enquête. Voornamelijk willen we weten wat jullie van het webinar vonden, maar daarnaast dus ook, mochten we een nieuw webinar organiseren, samen met Transoft, zijn er bepaalde specifieke onderwerpen dat jullie zeggen van, dat zouden we echt heel graag willen zien. Jullie kunnen daarop stemmen, dan zien we dat ook in de hoeveelheid en daar de volgende stap in nemen. En dan next slide, Willem, en dan stel ik voor dat we naar de vragen gaan. En Willem, there are some questions in Dutch, but I will try to translate it, but I will eventually ask your question, the question to you. That's about the blind spot analysis. It's from Misha, it's a question. And he asked for if there is a blind spot analysis per vehicle available to use in AutoCAD.
Very interesting question. The blind spot analysis that we...
Yeah.
Sorry?
Now, also if the blind spot analysis, if it's available per vehicle, and if he's able to download it somewhere.
Unfortunately not.
Okay.
So it is very specific to the vehicle. It's also very specific to where the driver sits in the vehicle. Mm-hmm. And that normally is available from the manufacturer of the vehicle. And in some cases, they provide PDF versions of this that you then can download, import in AutoCAD, and then trace. And that's exactly what I did with this specific vehicle.
Okay. And that's also a question from Ivar. It's also about the blind spot analysis. He's quite a similar question, if it's a standard embedded into AutoTURN, or does he has to do it manually via the polylines?
Yeah, so unfortunately, it's not standard in AutoTURN. The blind spot analysis in AutoTURN, there is a sight distance analysis that's built into AutoTURN, and that gives you sight lines that's built into. But these specific blind spots that you have to download and then trace it according to the polyline method, as if it's a load.
Okay, thanks. Another question from Jarek. What's the maximum speed that you can and may adjust for the vehicles in AutoTURN, as he thought it was especially just for the lower speeds, but what's the maximum speed that he can adjust it to?
Okay. In AutoTURN, there's two algorithms. The one uses low speed, which is based on the steering lock angle and the wheelbase and the sign of the wheelbase. And that is for speeds lower than 15 kilometers an hour or 10 miles per hour. And AutoTURN is really made for low speed analysis. However, AutoTURN does support speeds higher than 15, which then uses a different algorithm to calculate these speeds, which is based on lateral friction and so on. So you could go easily 30 or 60 kilometers an hour, but AutoTURN is really not meant to analyze a highway or a freeway. It's supposed to be used to analyze very specific points, pinch points. So I would rather go with the low speeds, even though you can do high speed analysis.
Okay. Another question. We still have the time, right? Yeah. Just a few minutes. A question from Rob, and it's in English, by the way. Is it possible to export the animation to as a file to use in an animation in other software, for instance, Twinmotion or InfraWorks, or etc.?
Yes, definitely. The standard export format of the animation, when you click on the red little dots on the left, it's an AVI file. Now, you can import AVI files, or you can take it into any video converter and export it to any other format. You can also use, if you wanted to use an external tool like Camtasia or Snippet, you can also record it. But again, AutoTURN does have the recording to AVI functionality.
Great, thanks. The last question, because of the time also we will end. Ik zeg het ook even in het Nederlands, mochten jullie later nog of andere vragen hebben, vul die ook in bij de enquête, want dan komen we dan nog bij jullie op terug. The last question I will mention here is also in English, by the way, from Frank. Is there a site where the blind spots are to download? Can we download the blind spots?
Yeah, unfortunately, we have not aggregated that ourselves for all the vehicles. As you can imagine, for each and every vehicle, there will be many vehicles with these. You would have to go to the manufacturer's website to download these.
Okay, great. Dan, Pieter, ik zie voor jou nog een vraag. Mijn collega gaat daar even op reageren. Het webinar is ook opgenomen, dus je zal die krijgen. En, dan kan je, en dat geldt voor allemaal, mocht je hem nog even na willen kijken. Jullie krijgen morgen een nieuwsbrief en daarin zit ook de link van de opname in. Dus dan kan je het in alle rust nog even nakijken. Namens Willem en mijzelf wil ik jullie nogmaals hartelijk danken voor de aanwezigheid bij dit webinar. We zijn heel erg benieuwd naar jullie mening, naar jullie oordeel van. Dus graag vul de enquête in. En we zien jullie graag weer bij een volgend webinar. Dank jullie wel.